Can you guys see the screen, or is it not coming up? Oh, it does that sometimes. Hey everyone. Okay, we had some odds coming up here around that 221 to 230 period, so I just wanted to see what's our big overhead that we discussed in these ranges here. What's our big spots? We got that really good stick right here that we needed. So we have some odds around that 220. I had 221. So if they break ahead of that, that's even better. What's our big overhead, guys? I'm not going to repeat myself a lot today, too, because my throat is hurting. What's our big overhead? Yeah, 7, 8. So I just want to see how they react to that big spot there. So for starters, we looked at this a lot yesterday. We already figured that off of these open, close, 173 points, which was half of 346, is going to be potentially some massive overhead. If you guys want to mark these on your charts, these are half of 346. Okay, so we did talk about this yesterday. This is if they really wanted to expand downside or put us at major risk from these open closing ratios here. And luckily they were able to negate that. So these areas here, okay, mark them down and mark them on your charts and write what they are so that you guys aren't just having random numbers on your screen. So these areas here. So I would say that they did a pretty good job of trying to avoid that. Okay. They came super close back in here because that's what would have implied the bigger moves down, right? Like in terms of getting like a 346 point break. I also noticed why do you think I would have measured off of here in the first place? These areas here, they're not random spots like this 9697. That's 256 points from highs. Does that make sense, guys? Hey, I need you guys to make sure you understand this because I was like kind of surprised that no one even paid attention to those 6520s that we discussed yesterday. So usually if you're going to break down another 256 points, you typically break how many points first? And quickly, guys, because I am in a trade. How many points would you break down first? If you're going to break 256 points. Yalla. What's half of 256? And this is how I knew that if we fail these ranges here, that we could easily come back and start breaking. Yeah, like so 6, 5, 6, 8. Okay, 6, 5, 6, 6. These areas here. Okay, those were still pretty big spots for us to sustain. In general, so I knew that as soon as I started breaking those, that we're probably going to start working within like the 150. Okay, that's the 256, which they did. And then we could start watching the extended ratios. There was a lot of support back in this range in here. And especially when we measured off highs, like from the 20th or from the 17th specifically, since the 17th was a big flip date. Okay, remember we said that these areas here, 256. So it's not that these areas weren't important. They were. And we did talk about that. Specifically off of here, like off of the 65.45, 65.30s. Okay, let me just delete this so you guys can see. Are you guys paying attention? Okay. So were these areas still very important for us on the session in general? Like 65.45, 65.35 area. in terms of our 17th highs and our lower highs. This is off a high to low ratio. Yes. Okay, so what did we end up doing in real time today? This is huge. What did we do in real time today, guys? And even when they brought this back right here, they did a really good job of sustaining back in here. Yeah, they held and they did not break down. Okay, so they got kind of close right in between, but they didn't break it down. So I would say that that was very progressive price action. Would you guys agree? Yes. Even when they did break this down to the 20s, back in here, okay, they had a really sharp negation and they immediately took out these areas. Do you see this? So those are all very important details that you guys should be paying attention to, because if they were to clear down beneath that range in here, does that not imply that at the very least we could have another 256 point break? Isn't that what that means? And I would bet anything that if we measure 256 points off today's lows, it probably would link us right back or pretty close to our August 1st. These ranges in here. Do you see that? And remember we had that 5.75 offset? And remember we've been ranging about 261 points? Like look, 261.25, 261.75. Isn't that interesting? So I know for a fact that holding the 6520s is trying to prevent us from getting back to 6200s, okay? That's a huge, huge area to lose. When I went back and looked at this too from how we looked at this initial angle and these structure breaks right here, I mean, it could also imply that maybe the 6530s come into play first, right? Like there could be some odds that maybe they want to backtest these ranges in here first. Closer to here. Do you see that? Kind of like some mid support in the channel, like basically the zone beneath and then taking it just slightly lower. The bigger range to lose is obviously 3, 4, 6, and these areas should align back with like opening, closing candles right here, back in like the means and the midpoints right here. Okay, off these areas from our August 1st and 4th. And breaking beneath those ranges is what's going to keep that volatility pretty high. So if we had a 346 point breakdown from here, these should be quite aligned to these prior lows. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see that, kind of like right in here, or this gap range right back here. Do you see this? I didn't measure to see how much range that was, but I would assume this was a 66 point break and they probably just held 88 points. Do you see that? So I just want to show you guys 3 different ways of looking at this. So from all-time highs, if we measure 343 to 346 points, okay, that's also aligned to that 6610 area. I just wanted to see an 88 point break right here is probably around those 6523, 6524 areas. Okay, so there was a lot of support around these 6520s, but in general, failing this range is what would have put us back at risk of these candles right here. Do you guys see what I'm saying? And we can put 3, 4, 4, 6. We've been using 356 point increments lately too. But just so you guys can see this, I don't want to get too distracted because these are important times, but I just want you guys to see the range, okay? Okay. Okay, do you see how these are linked to these structures right here? if you measure off open close, which I haven't done yet, but these are pretty close to like the 356. So we've definitely taken out a little bit more than we'd prefer in terms of that range, which can imply what? And this is why I say with that, we're probably trading sideways, like in between. What are we looking to achieve right here, guys, right now in today's session? Off close and off lows. What are we looking to achieve? How many points based on the metrics we're working with? Why is this our overhead? So 128 points off previous close is 667875. So lots of overhead around here, around the 78. Okay. Off of today's open, it's closer to 6688. Oh wow, off of today's open, 6688 is exactly 128 points. So that's impressive. That means that we have entry odds of entering the zone. And if we're looking at it from like 132 point ratio, then we have some odds of maybe coming back to those previous closing points, right? 6692, 6693. What's one way, if we're capped out around 6692 and 6682, I just want to show you guys something. Okay, 6682. Did I mark that? 6682.50. I just want to show you guys something. If those are the 132 to 128 points off open close. Okay, so we're technically speaking, we're still a little bit shy. If they stalled here and if they stalled here, how many off points in offset is this? Between here and here. Do you guys see it? And between, where is it? That 8.2 and 8.8. Do you see it? 8.250 and 8.8. What's the theme here? How did that not fill? What's the theme here? Guys, if I'm turning away from my own positions to help you guys, and I just missed a cover, you guys better participate. Because I did just miss my covering that. I was off by 5 cents. So at least answer or try. These are some of the earliest odds to try clearing this 7.875. Where did they stall in 7.8? So I know for a fact that 7.8 is definitely an overhead. No, what am I saying? You guys, what is this? What's the theme? Oh, you guys made me miss my exit for nothing if you guys don't even know the answer to that. What's the theme here? If these 128 to 132 point ratios are closer to 8-2 and 9-2, what's the theme? We want to obviously get to 8-8 and 9-7. Could they do that? Oh my God. What's the common theme? That's been the theme of the week. How could they do that? Yes, because we still have, it's the exact offsets. No, it's because we still have these offsets, you guys. It's on the screen. How do you guys not, like, pay attention to these things? Meaning they could technically take this above 132 points by maybe 5.5. 5.75. If they stall these areas, then obviously there's going to be a lot of implied volatility that comes in there. Because these are pretty big spots to stall, okay? Also, when I was looking at this earlier, like, I didn't really measure these exact ranges here, but I knew that when they came back and held this range in here, this was kind of holding that 66 point range and 68 point range off these lows, okay, off those 30s back in here. So I thought that was pretty important. That's kind of why they were stalling these areas back here earlier. And then when they broke, these were kind of closer to like 119, 120, but the 5-3 area is what had the most overhead because that was our first, the 5-3 area was our 128 point break, okay? That's why I was saying that when we break this area in here, we have to have volume. We have to have relative strength. Okay. Did we get volume around the 5-3 and 5-7 area? Specifically in here. Back in here. Yes, right? We did. Really good volume. I wanted to see if they would protect 5-3 right here. I didn't like that they breached it a tiny bit, but they technically they still held. Okay, so this was the 128 to 132 point break off lows. How can we tell if they're going to offset that? I'm trying to show you guys something. How could we tell if we have an odd of offsetting this? How many points can we offset this by? Do you guys see what I'm saying? What did they do when they broke this range right here? Well, yeah, but you guys are not paying attention at all. When they broke 128 to 132 points off lows, what did they do at that point? This candlestick here, this was the break. This was the 128 to 132 point break off lows. That's why it snapped like that. I know there was news, but that was the range break on that stick. What did they do when they did that? That's off lows, not off open. So what did they achieve when they did that there? Yes, by what? Give me an exact answer. I know it's a single stick. I'm not blind. I can see. You guys are not going to get better at predicting odds until you guys start doing stuff on your own. What did they do when they broke that range? Give me 3 things that they did when they broke that range. Because that's a very, 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 very important area to break. Especially the point in the day that they broke it at. By how much? How much is a bit? When did they do it? How did they do it? Was there liquidity? How many points did they break by? Do you see all the information you can get from price action if you're paying attention? So 3 things that stick did. 1, it was liquid. Okay, that was pretty obvious, which is good. 2, it broke 128 to 132 points by XXX amount. Okay. It closed above by XXX amount. I'm not filling this out, you guys are. What else did it do? It broke at XXX time, ahead of XXX time. If these are potentially our max ranges for the session today, okay? Think about the time, think about how much time we have left, think about what they've already done. What are our odds of breaking these areas? It's just off lows. It's whatever it was, subtract. Or you can add whatever's easier. 65, 25, 0.50, whatever the low is. What was our low? 65, 25.25. So 65.57.25 area, give or take, if you're doing 132 versus 133. I was better off just focusing on my own trades, it seems. Nice. Guys, I'm not gonna stream any more like crucial points of the day like this. Like I miss exits sometimes and you guys don't even participate unless I like force you guys to, which is kind of annoying. It's not that complicated. What time do they do this at? Like it's really not that hard. Yeah, but it doesn't help me. Me losing money does not help me. Okay, so if you guys are not gonna even at least try, then there's no point. I could just not stream or just stream after the fact, not while it's happening. Yeah, obviously I want to help you guys, but I don't want to lose money helping you guys if you guys are not going to participate. Especially if I have to ask like 30,000 times. Do you know what I mean? Like I shouldn't have to ask 30,000 times. What time did they break out at? 1:48 p.m. Okay, so it's so obvious, ahead of 2. Okay? Don't you think it's going to be super important that they try holding this area here by 1:48, 1:47? Especially in correlation to this. It's just like the very basic answers that sometimes you guys give, like a single stick. I know this is a single stick. I don't care that it's a single stick. I don't care about that. I care about how much range it broke, what time it broke. Was it liquid when it broke? Where did it break? When did it break? Where did it sustain? How much time do we... I don't care about that. Like, I feel like you guys are missing the whole point here. What's the point of having these advanced sessions if I'm going to get very basic answers? That means you guys haven't learned anything that I've taught or I'm trying to teach. This is also what can help us potentially achieve highs. I already knew that 7-8 was a huge area. So I'm pretty annoyed that I missed my 7-8 exit because you guys want an answer. Yeah, but that's not what I'm trying to ask. It's not that. I don't care about that. We're trying to figure out our odds for the last hour. That's what we're trying to figure out. These are our ranges. I would think that this point in the day is super important, especially off these ranges. Okay? Pay attention to where it's opening, where it's breaking at 2:48. What do you want to try achieving here? Yes. And these are really important spots to sustain. But you guys are still missing the point. This is the only reason why I didn't get too upset, because I knew that there was the odds that they would turn it back around. But what could this imply? Oh my god, no. No. What does this imply? You guys have to give me an exact answer. What does this imply? What does that candlestick imply to highs? Your areas are 66.82, 66.88, 66.92. What is this candle breaking these areas off lows imply off open close? You're missing the entire point of what I'm trying to explain. Like, everything I'm trying to explain just went way over everyone's head. What could they do if and when they break these areas here? Whatever, I give up. I think we've moved 151 points off lows now, which is half that 256. No, 66 points. What? You guys, if you moved and broke how many points off this range, what could that imply off of these areas here? Why is it that hard for you guys to understand that concept? If this is off lows, what could this imply off open close? No. These are the 132 point ranges from open, okay? And close. These areas here, 6682, 6692. So what could that imply if we get the same exact offset we got off lows? That's all I'm asking. It shouldn't be that complicated for you guys to answer that. If I streamed for you guys for a week, 2 weeks, okay, I'd be like, yeah, I've been streaming every single day almost for like the last like 5 years. Like, how can you not understand that base concept? What could this mean? At the very least, what kind of ranges could we potentially see? I need you guys to understand this, because if this happens end of day and you guys are shocked, if it does, then you're not listening. What could they do here? I want to see what kind of odds we have. I really want to see our odds. I want to see what they could do. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you see what I mean? Yeah, after I missed my exit, missed the second break, like... Yeah, but I don't think those odds are going to be as high now if they're breaking down this area here. Specifically around the same time that they broke this range in here. And ideally before 3. 6678 was one of my biggest targets. That's why I'm actually so annoyed. I actually wish I didn't stream for you guys. Sorry. Because that could be the high of day. If they don't turn this around before 3. All for no one to participate or listen. I'm just more annoyed because that I already said that was the overhead like 12 times this morning, and I missed it. And you guys still didn't even get the answer right. That's the most annoying part. And the answer I got was a single stick. Do you know how disappointing that is? A single stick. I know it's a single stick. We could get breaks to 6709. We could get breaks to 6699.75, 6700, 6701.02. They could reset this. Like, that's the whole point of this. Wait, these were shitty areas. 9796 suck. 92 sucks. We needed 6699, 6701, 6708, correct? These kind of breaks gave us an odd of potentially doing that. Or at least getting into the zone, because 6682, that's not a zone entry. But if they offset it by what they did back here, then we have a shot of actually getting back to these areas here. Do you see what I'm trying to say? And if they shoot us up over 6,700 end of day, I wouldn't want anyone to be shocked by it, because that would make sense based off the implied range, or like what they could do by close, because this is off lows, these are off close. And if this is coming up to the hour, the only thing that could make a difference here is, I guess, if they break it back up by 3. I don't know if we had anything happening though at 3 o'clock. I don't think we have anything else this afternoon. No, it's fine. I don't know. I don't get why. I feel like I explain so much and put in so much detail, and then I get the most basic answers, or like no answers at all. So like, what's the point? It doesn't make any sense. There's zero benefit for me doing that, especially in real time. If you want me to explain it after the fact, after it happens, okay. I think in order for them to even still have an audit this though, they have to get it back over these ranges before 3. Otherwise that 66.78 is probably going to be capped range. So I want to see if they can try holding this 128 point range here off lows ahead of 3 o'clock. Otherwise I would think that the highs are probably in, unless they can break this area here. Well, sorry doesn't really do anything. It's okay. Just annoying. They're stalling 128 so far. They broke it back up though by 152, 153. Also, I feel like that would make more sense too, because I feel like engulfing is going to be kind of hard for them to do. That's just too much range. But back to close would make some sense, I guess, if they were able to sustain. So it's going to be relative. So what they're doing here is they're trying to decide, do they want it closer to these closing points, or do they want it closer to these closing points in here? Okay, so there is risk of them taking it back to 66.30s, especially if they don't retract this area pretty soon. I'm gonna watch this time frame into the close here. There's some flips at 305. It's a really nice 3-bar potential continuation. That third bar flips here and that runs until close. So maybe we can just kind of watch that to see the kind of breaks we could see around that point in time. So there might be a window closer to like 302, 305. That's probably the cutoff though. So let me see. 29. 30, 31. 345. Yeah, these all run till the close. 345, 346, 99, 99. Minute runs till 327. 231, 231. Yeah, these all run till close. 116. Oh, interesting. Those were calculated times of day around here. Off these real-time lows. And they started stalling. Okay, so they retested at 03. That I said that that was more calculated based on actual low of day, but I do want to see what they do between this 305 to 316 period. Unfortunately, that's still not enough at all for this to retract and retrace. Where's SPX trading at? 66.30. SPY 661. getting a bit compressed here. There's some calculated points coming up around 314 and 316, and then a bigger period between 324 and basically 330. I usually watch that point in time anyway for imbalance prints, but I just want to see what they end up doing later this afternoon. There's also some odds for like extremely late in the session, close to close. Most of the odds are after the bell, but I just want to see if they can try turning this back around here, because I think this area here at this point in time is basically going to determine what they want to do here. And it makes sense because they're basically, you know how we have risk back to the 30s and 20s? They're basically holding it right in between our 6652, 57 and this area here. Do you see what I'm saying? Like between the 5.7 mark, 5.3 mark. Do you see it? So I know that this is a big area for risk. Because look, that makes total sense. Because if they wanted to bring it back down here to pin these closing areas instead, then they would. So I think it's really important now that they try holding off of this area in here, like this area in here, since that's half the range between 66.57, 66.53, and our 66.33 to 27 area, like 3.128. These areas here. And I think the point in time for that turnaround is probably coming up right here. This one had a really good reversal today, actually. So did Google. So what do you guys think? Which end does it break? And it looks like the range is almost similar on both sides. Like the range beneath and the range above is like, to me, it looks almost exact. That's like 22 to 33 points probably here. Or that 26 point offset that we talked about on the daily chart. Let's see. Yeah, close to like 26 points is what this offset is. Okay, 26.75. 26.75. There's about 26 points on each side. Aw, thank you so much. Thank you. So I'm assuming this is probably 33 points to 3.3. And if they get a 33 point break above here, that's probably the 8.2, 8.6 area. Yeah, it is. Look. 8.8, 9.9. Interesting. So they need to really retrace right here then. The calculated time I had was 3.13. I could be wrong though, because I manually calculated that, but I had odds at 3.13. It could be, it was 13, not 14. It could happen a minute earlier. I guess we can watch the 13.14. And then there's an actual flip at 3.16. Meaning we have to kind of watch the 3.15 period. So the next 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes are super important in terms of determining whether or not they're going to take it back above these ranges and put these odds in play. Otherwise, we're back at risk. Does that make sense to you guys? Or this is where they could just also keep it pinnable. I'm still sad I missed my exits by 5 cents. I would have covered the exact high of day. I don't know. You guys think that they'll take this back to the zone? Happy Thanksgiving to you. Something clever. Thanksgiving already passed here in Canada, but happy Thanksgiving. I'll be happy to have a lot of online shopping this weekend. set this for like 5 minutes so you guys have time. All right, so far, stalling at these calculated points. This doesn't look like it. They're still struggling. I think them not holding this area before 3 was also a big sign that they might be stuck or stalled. Can you guys vote on that poll, please? There's an actual flip at 16, so that's why I just want to see the calculated points here. But so what do you guys think the condition has to be at this point in time? It's pretty obvious. Like if they want to break and come back and try retesting these ranges, they definitely need at least back over 5.3 and 5.7, right? If they stay stuck, then we're going to trade sideways. If they break down this range, then we could head back to here. It's pretty, I think it's pretty straightforward. So we want to see at least breaks of 5.3. I feel like 5.3 is not high enough though. They probably need at least 5.6, 5.7. And it's so clear that this is overhead, right? Like in this area here, these ranges. And kind of where they're channeling this too. 66.41 is also an annual range. So when they broke this, they broke a really big spot. There's those odds around 324, 327, and then those calculated times at 330, 31, 32. Well, we probably won't get it just because I missed my exit. Which is super annoying. I'm still really annoyed about that. Because I wasn't going to stream. Then I was like, you know what? This is a big area. I should probably stream. To me, this is looking stuck. Or compressed. Or at least delayed. If they keep it stuck in here, but don't break down, then they could just delay it till this window here. But they would need some pretty big sticks. Because I don't think that's enough range. What? So I would say since they held that 50% range here at like 4-1, and they did test 5-3, they still have a tiny odd. It's not that high, but it's closer to this window here. And if they're delaying, it could be because they just want to pin the close. But I do think that range was probably reduced. We'll have to see unless they get like a really aggressive push or something. Today is also a flip date, so what does that mean? Yeah, you could get volatility, you could get range. And today made sense. So think about it. When people ask me, well, I don't know how to understand flips. Like, okay, if we had that big of downside, right, and the 21st is a big flip date, obviously it's not going to be a consolidation flip. You'd probably want to try retracting some of that downside range and retracing to avoid some of the volatility from now until the 28th. You guys owe me for this. I gave back $600 because of this stream, which is, I know is not a lot, but to me that's a lot. Not covering there. So this better come back by end of day. This better come back by end of day. Especially because I was preparing all afternoon for 6678. I feel like though if they don't clear at this point, then they're stuck. Or they could actually even drop this too if they wanted to, back to these areas here. But I don't know, I feel like... Would they want to drop this into the weekend though? Or would they at least want to sustain 66, 52 to 66? We're still stuck in the means and channel here right now too on a different basis. So Intel is getting a pretty decent move into the close here. Oops. We already talked about those odds. What? Well, this is actually getting pretty close to that range break. Hmm. 35. Oh, I thought it was closer to 35.20, but it's not. It's closer to 35.10. This could trigger an engulfing break here on Intel. I did take this one long again today just because I like the odds on that one because they had good news and I think it just got held down due to market volatility, but it didn't really have a reason to be down. This is the first window here that opens up volatility close to like 324. So far, it definitely looks like they want to try back testing first. Unless they immediately negate. But I think based on that 5-3 stall, they're trying to keep this limited for upside range. 324 breaking that 6638, 6641. There were those odds that they could head back to this area here So I would say that range for upside is definitely reduced based on what they did during this period between 248, 250, 316, 324. Where do they trigger on this? We'll see though. This just brings it back to safety. It doesn't necessarily give us those odds. They still have to take out 5-3, 5-7, but maybe now that they broke down, they have an odd of breaking back up, especially if they broke down this range by like 8 points or so. Or like 5.5 points beneath. Oh, okay, that's crazy. That's 5.5 points. And that's where they were stalling here anyway, so maybe this time they can actually break 5-7. We'll see. They have to break 5-3, 5-7. They're not going to get any progress here unless they take out those ranges. And if they want to keep this, so it's funny that the volatility period was between 324 and 332, and that was the range down. So, and that was about 28 points. I guess we'll see if they have those odds. 28 points above that, I think, takes it back to highs. Yeah, it does. Do you guys see that? Close to 7.6. So technically they do have an odd, I guess, but not unless they get back over this 5.3, 5.7 area. They really need to start pushing though. This is still in an area that implies risk into the close. That's not nearly enough range. But they did trigger for 1, so we'll see. Because they also could just keep it pinnable in these ranges into the close too if they wanted to. Can't believe I missed my exit. I'm actually very sad about that. Because I missed it twice. And so far this doesn't look constructive for them to bring it back. Unless they really, really want to pin the close, they'd have to try getting back here by no later than like 348, 350. But even then, I feel like odds of getting to the zone now are pretty reduced. What do you guys think? Like, I feel like getting over 6788 is, or 6688, 6682 is probably reduced now. Especially if they can't even get it out of the channel. Because ending the week in the channel is also a probability if they wanted to just keep us stuck until next week. It's not really a good area to stay stuck though, just because it's not as calculated, but I guess we shall see. Do you see how they're kind of saving this area up here for the last like 15? It's probably better that we tested downside ahead of 345. Because typically speaking, I'd prefer testing downside early versus later, because then it gives us time to do what? Usually it can give you time to come back and try to retrace, but at the very least, they would need at least back over this 4-4, whatever this 53 candlestick area is. Also, where they stalled, I noticed, is also 5.5 points above these ranges. So I found that pretty interesting. Like beneath that 8.2, 8.250 area, this was 5.5 points. And 5.75 points on those stalls. So maybe they just reduced it. All right, what do you guys think? How many people here think that they're going to retest high of day? How many people think that they're pinned in this channel range right here? So far, that's what it's looking like. But because, I guess, it's a flip date, end of day could get crazy if they wanted to. We said that we have a lot of support near these 20s, so they're basically holding bull ranges here, but we did have some confluence around the 10 and 08 spot too if they were to take this back down. In order for them to do this too, there's no way that they can come back and retest this unless they're at least above here in the next few minutes, and ideally above 5355, no later than 350, probably max like 354, 355. And that being said, you need some really aggressive sticks considering where they're currently trading. But also closing in a channel into a weekend is also common, so if they were to leave it in this area here, it's not really that big of a surprise. This was the next window. I could see this staying stuck. That's just my kind of luck. Already covered. I don't feel like they have decent odds. Maybe back to like 5357, but they're really trying to limit this. I'm still going to watch this period though too, just because it's aligned with this. At least to see if they can bring that 4-1 area back on, but let me mark the 350 candle. 6620s are also linked to the 6641 area, just FYI. And someone in the chat mentioned that earlier too. So this was on the previous report. Vinci mentioned it. So good job to Vinci. And you can see how it's correlated right now here too. Do you see that? Like this hold here off 2-2, stall at 4-1. It's a big spot. What time is it? 46. Okay, that's pretty good range ahead of 4-8. Maybe that gives us some odds to retract this area here by 348, 349. What do you guys think? How many here think that they can at least try getting back over this 5-3 area into the close? 5-3, 5-7. To me, it looks pretty stuck, but you guys owe me for missing my exit. I can't believe I missed my exit by a hair. And I waited all day for that freaking exit. Just because I didn't want you guys to miss that. All for no one to even know any of the answers of what we were trying to talk about. And I knew that there's a chance that they could also stall. Especially if they didn't clear 7-8. I don't even think we got to 7-8. We got to 7-750 or 7-775. Yeah, maybe the means are these 40s, because the 40s and 30s have a lot of confluence too, but or worst case is this area here, because this area here has confluence too, but I would prefer not. Hopefully they can at least get it back above 6641, back to 5-3, 5-7. Getting back to 66, 66, 66, 68, core ranges is going to be the best case scenario for us, but I don't know, so far this seems fairly stuck. It's 49 already too, right? And they're still stalling this area here. But getting back above this line gives us a 50% odd of getting back to this area here. So that's why I was saying they need to at least get this back over this 4-1, 4-1-7-5. And so far they're making this extremely stuck or sticky here. I guess we'll have to see what kind of range we get on this 350 stick. That range seems similar though, this upside range versus this continued downside range, they look about the same. And them keeping it in the channel by 348, 350 implies that they're trying to limit this as much as they possibly can, which is what I said that they would do. Because it just seemed like they want to try keeping the range a little bit limited. There could be odds after the bell though, because there was a lot of flips for aftermarket close. We'll have to see what they do here. Well, this 66, 20s, and 30s is also a big spot though, so these are 33, 34 point ratios from these areas, right? So let's not forget that. I think these are even 66 to 68 from 6668. Like these ranges here. Okay. And 6696. So them closing it in this area here too does have an odd, especially if they didn't expand, which I didn't think that they would do. Like it seemed very likely that they're going to keep this stuck. Just my luck. Thanks, guys. Excellent stream. I knew that that was going to be the case, especially when they stalled right here at 53 and they never retraced this back by like that 314.16 window. That was kind of the cutoff. And then no breaks back up during the 45, 48 interval. Are you cheerleading or what are you doing? Okay. Yeah, the market's definitely giving range on both ends. And they're really calculated ranges too. This is the 5-4 period, right? If they hold this 21, 22 area off 354, 355, then they'll probably pin back in this channel. Otherwise, like I said, I think that we still have some risk here back to like 66.10, 66.08 into the close. These are all very calculated ranges in terms of where we stalled at 6678. 6678 was a really big overhead for us today. That was the area that could basically expand us or break us down that we talked about this morning. There's a big spot in terms of whether or not they can hold 66.53, 66.57. It's pretty clear when they stalled 66.53 back here. That being said, we have probably a higher likelihood of closing in the zone. Hence, closing in the bull zone is still going to be better for us. So, are you guys okay if I reset the chart now? Now that we know what the ranges are? Into the close? There we go. So, closing in this area here is obviously going to imply some volatility heading into next week, okay? So at the very least, we want to try a closing at least in the 6621 to 6632 area. No, my computer is a beast. Do not jinx my computer. It's bad enough you guys made me miss my 6678 exit. Do not make my computer die on top of it. What's this area anyway from the close or from the lows? I didn't double check that, but I was pretty sure this was the 88 point break. Yeah, it is. So this is 88 points from the lows, guys, if they close it around here. It's not the most ideal area. This area kind of leaves it conflicted. So personally speaking, I would prefer that they can hold above 66, 10, 12, 13, 14. Okay, try avoiding this neutral zone. But from the looks of it, I don't know. What do you guys think? It looks like they might want to take it there into the close. That was my max into the close. I didn't really think that we could go lower than 66.08, 66.10. If they took it lower than that, I'd be pretty surprised. Specifically on this stall of like 5.3 right here. That was a pretty... The stalls of 5.3, 5.7 right here were the main reason why they brought this range down. I would prefer that they pin above 66.22. Down here. How much time do we have left? We did have some odds after the close today too. They're gone now off my chart, but they were pretty late odds. They're playing with both sides here, final minute. At least our ranges were accurate. 66, 78 stall, 66, 53, 57 failure. Bringing this back to that 66.21. 66.21 hold. Failure to clear above 66.41 back in here, which gave us that risk of testing 66.08, 10, 14. This area is 88 points off lows right here around the 13 mark, where they're currently holding. The bigger risk obviously would be if they took it right back to 6588, 6599, which I prefer we avoid that into this week's close, just because the 21st is a very important flip date for multiple structures. All right, what do you guys think? Give me your pin for the close. How many people here think they can get this back above 66.22? How many people think they break 66.13? The even better area would be closer to 3132, but I feel like they didn't push that 30-second interval. Probably not. I feel like 2122 makes more sense, but we'll see. Hopefully we get the 20s, because pinning in this area here would suck. 22 is extremely calculated too, so if they really want to push this, they take it to 30s. Where do they pin? 66, 22, 50. Wow, we're so smart. we are so smart. That's a really calculated pin, you guys, at 66, 22, 50. I know that structure and everything looks extremely bearish here, but technically speaking, from a range perspective or a zone perspective, that's still a decent pin that is correlated to core. So core area correlated to core areas, that could get you that retest of 66.70s into next week. So that would maybe be like their final shot for the 24th. That's our next date that we have. Next week is a shorter week, so something else to be mindful of. Any questions before I sign off for the weekend? I hope they gap us on Sunday. Yeah, if they gap us on Sunday, then it could help get us that start ahead or whatever, but how tall am I? I'm pretty short. I'm not very tall. I'm 5'4". Thank you, Super Gal. Oh, I don't really care to check Bitcoin. It broke our spot. Bitcoin has a... This is that really calculated area. They tried holding it yesterday and couldn't hold. They have a flip on the weekend, so Bitcoin could come back and retrace. Hi, Cool Gators. Yeah, it did, but this has to come back and retract. Otherwise, this is going to be a much wider risk. But I feel like crypto has a chance of retracing by the 21st, 22nd. 22nd was the flip date, right? So it has to come back and retract this area here. This is a huge risk for crypto if it doesn't. So you'd want to see like this kind of a move over the weekend. Otherwise, I would say that this could be easily at risk for another 6,000 points down, okay? I'm not a huge crypto trader, but I mean, these areas have been extremely accurate, especially on the stalls back in here. Do we still need channel before section close? I think channel is just safer for us, Vincy, because like it's just a digestive area, but technically speaking, core ranges are fine too because we stalled core ranges, right? Like we stalled 6677, 6678, 6674, 71. So this close is probably more aligned with here, if that makes sense, because these are core ranges, core highs, core close, core lows. Does that make sense? Core lows, core close, core highs. So obviously the market wants to stay closer to core areas. So if it's, I feel like if it's going to get back in the channel, then at that point you need to kind of start pushing back over 6.6. So I guess it's more of like, if it doesn't have the momentum to do that into this last hour, then it's better off sitting still. And then maybe we get like a gap open next week or something like that. Also, these areas are, they were more aligned with the real-time ranges, like these areas here. Do you see that? Like the 88 points, like around 27, 28. So maybe they could pin it there. But I don't know. I just figured like if they stalled, like at the very least from real-time ranges, you'd need back over 6.6. Do you see this? Off these lows? Does that make sense, Vincy? Like these areas here for today are aligned with, even though they didn't give us that full break, okay, off lowest real-time close. Do you see how they stalled there? That's why I was so sad I missed my exit. You guys owe me. I can't believe I gave back $600 because of streaming and missing this. I was off by 5 cents. I honestly thought that those would trigger $1.70. It ended up hitting like $1.65 or something like that. So this getting back here would, like, it's not bad. It's just if you're gonna close over an 88 point metric, okay, then you probably want to start pushing, because then at that point it's gonna be a lot harder if you're stuck within like these would be like probably 107 points. Does that make sense? 115 points, like the incremental values versus like exactly 128 or 132. Do you see what I'm saying? This is probably 107 off lows right here, around 3.2. Okay. These are probably 115 around here, around the 40s. So yeah, it would be better if you don't even have to really get back to core, I guess. Like mid core is 6650, so I guess 6653, 57 would also work if that was the case. So if basically if you can't break high enough, you're better off not breaking at all. So high enough is at least 6653, 6657. Okay. Ideally 66, 66 plus. Make sense? Otherwise, that just stay closer to this 22, 27, 28 area. Yeah, 10-day had a lot of pressure. So did the 12-day. There was a lot of pressure on these extended frames. This flips on the 28th. We're at like mid-risk now though, because if markets don't retract at least back to here by next week, like back to that zone area, then we're going to be in steep trouble. Also, this is the 330 points from highs. Remember how I said market has about a 26 point offset right now? Where they closed is around that 320, 322. Remember how I said sometimes when we don't break 346, we get closer to like 320? This is a really good example of that. And this is why I wanted to hold 6608, 6610. That was 346 points off highs. So at least that gives us an odd of not, you know, continuing to break down another 346 points or something. Because they're trying to hold the line. 6608 into close would have been very bad for us. Now I'm excited to see what they do next week since it's a shorter week.